Presenting Sektor. This is a powerhouse hybrid wavetable and sample-based synth plugin for creating fat bass lines, soaring leads, complex ARPs and one-finger sequencers. Suitable for music in any genre but excelling in electronic styles, Sektor has an intuitive workflow with all main parameters on the front panel, and in optional tabs a wonderland of routing, effects, matrices and much more. Before I dive into the details, here are a few of the presets. Running in all major plugin formats for Mac and PC, Sektor features a multitude of synth parameters housed within a fully resizable and reskinnable HD interface. These include multiple oscillators and samples and unique per-voice customization. Hundreds of presets and factory wavetables, all fully editable. There's a suite of high-quality effects, modulation and expression parameters, envelopes, LFOs, and complex routing options with drag-and-drop virtual cabling. There are even built-in ARP and step sequencers for creating your own riffs. This is a fully spec'd synth, all for a fraction of the price of comparable plugins. So let's dive in. Here's the interface with the main controls accessible right on the front panel. Click into the various tabs here to access per-voice oscillator controls, the powerful sequencer, preset browser, 2 effects racks, and settings. Below that, the key display, expression page for hardware control and NPE mapping, twin ADSR envelopes, and 3 modulation envelopes which can be tempo synced. There are 4 LFOs, again with tempo syncing, and finally a 12-slot modulation matrix for linking sources to destination parameters, including setting up the 3 macro dials here. So as you can see, there's an awful lot of features within Sektor. In this video, I'm not going to look at the basics of synthesis or the common features of many related synths, but I'll concentrate on the aspects of Sektor that can make it a unique addition to your workflow. And of course, demo some of the awesome sounds along the way. Firstly, for those who like to customize the look of their plugins, Sektor is overflowing with options. The HD interface can be resized by just dragging the bottom right corner. Go into the settings menu to access the different skins. You can further customize the individual GUI colors to pretty much anything you want. Presets are accessed just here in the browser. They're categorized into many different types in 2 main banks of factory and signature, with over 750 available. Everything from beefy 808s to sparkling bells and plucks. The sequence presets show what the onboard sequencer is capable of. You can get into the 32-step sequencer controls here and apply new sequence presets to any synth sound. Draw in the piano roll just like you would in your DAW, and adjust speed, step number, and other parameters. One quick tip: if you hover your mouse over any control, you get some pop-up help text to explain what it does. Take a look at this sequence. In Sektor, there are two main oscillators to play with, A and B, currently playing. There's also a sine wave sub-oscillator just here that can be added into the mix. This has independent octave, drive, and you can send it to filter 1 or 2, or a mix of both. Another layer of samples can be added, with plenty of sample sets in the factory collection. Including multi-samples. Just like the sub-oscillator, you can send these sounds to the two filters and adjust the colour bandpass filter. Here's a fun example, with the main piano sound as a sample set, and oscillator B as a synthetic pluck. As for oscillator A, let's raise the level and play with the wavetables. Take a look at another sound. This one has a bit more of a pad feel, using a sample set and oscillator A. Keep your eye on this section of the interface as the wavetables change shape. I want to go into a bit more detail about the oscillators, their wavetables, and editing and morphing options. So this is another area that Sektor really shines. Isolating just oscillator A, you can see that wavetable animating as it moves through different shapes. In the case of this preset, this morphing movement is actually assigned to mod envelope 1. As I adjust the envelope, you can hear different effects as the morphing moves through the shapes in different ways. I'll deactivate the envelope routing and use the morph dial to morph manually. So what's actually happening here? If I open the wavetable editing for oscillator A, then it becomes a bit clearer. This sound has 9 different wavetable shapes, shown along the bottom here. And the morph control is moving through them, morphing from one to the next. Every wavetable shape in Sektor is fully editable using the tools here. And you can keep adding wavetables to the list almost indefinitely, giving lots of opportunities for sound shaping. Back to the main window, and there's also an easy way to change wavetables. Just load one of the hundreds of presets here. Moving on, let's take a look at the effects rack. Again, far more powerful and flexible than many comparable synth plugins. Access the 2 effects racks here. Let me explain a little about how signal and effects routing works in Sektor. This preset is a great example, as the sound is created from the 2 oscillators and each is producing a very different type of sound. As I showed before, Each of the two oscillators, the sub-oscillator and the sample player, can be routed to filter 1, filter 2, or a mixture of both. You can do that using these dials labelled 1 filter 2. For this preset, oscillator A is routed 100% to filter 1, which features a low-pass filter in this case. Oscillator B is routed 100% to filter 2, which has a high-pass filter applied. So that's how this particular sound preset is built. Of course, when you're putting together your own sounds, you can shape the two filters however you like, and route oscillators and sampler to any combination of the two. Moving to the effects rack, you can assign each rack's input to different things. In this case, effect rack 1 takes the signal from filter 1, so that's oscillator A, and effects rack 2 takes the signal from filter 2, that's oscillator B. The effects are running in parallel, so I can change parameters of effects rack 1 and it'll only change the sound of oscillator A. You can assign either effects racks to either filter or mixed. You can even set up the two effects racks in serial. Just change the input of rack 2 to rack 1. The 9 effects in each rack can be reordered. Simply drag them up and down in the rack. Many classic effects are featured here, alongside a super useful trance gate, great for turning pads into stuttering rhythmic motifs, with adjustable smoothness, steps and speed. This preset gives me a great opportunity to talk about another awesome feature of Sektor, the 3 macro dials just here. These dials can be assigned to multiple parameters and played in real time by right-clicking and then moving your MIDI controller. Let's do that now with macro 1. Opening the matrix just here, you can see that macro 1 is assigned to filter cutoff, macro 2 to reverb mix, and macro 3 to delay mix. A quick note about the matrix, you can assign almost any source to almost any destination. Just choose from the drop-downs. There's an even easier way, just drag and click from a destination box to a parameter dial in the interface, and that will connect a cable. Let's set up something new. Macro 1 to the wavetable morphing of oscillator A. And let's listen. Just for fun, let's assign everything to macro 1 so we can control it from the same dial and the same hardware controller. You can even click to rename the dials. It's the same concept for assigning pretty much any parameter. For example, in the expression section, you can configure up to 8 envelopes. If we really want to make this bassline scream with the mod wheel control, I'll just assign mod wheel to oscillator A wavetable morph. Then you can play the relative wavetable position live. Want more? What about also assigning filter 1 drive? Each envelope is fully customizable. Just drag the nodes or click to add new ones. In the settings menu, you can engage MPE mode, a new MIDI standard that Sektor supports. This adds even more control options in the expression panel for polyphonic playing with dedicated hardware. Lastly, I want to talk about the very granular options for editing individual voices in multi-voice instruments. You're probably already familiar with the common synthesis feature of increasing voice count to add thickness and depth to a sound. Sektor takes this to a whole new level, with individual control over the pitch, detuning, panning, phase, level, and wavetable position of each voice. To demo this, let's look at the voice count of this oscillator, already at 4. So that's great. We can then adjust the pitch of each voice in oscillator A, even creating chords. thicken things up with a bit of detuning, send voices left and right in the stereo field, and apply different wavetable shapes to the various voices. Of course, you can also do all of that editing again with Oscillator B. As you can see, Sektor is a whole lot more than just a run-of-the-mill wavetable synth, and I've only just scratched the surface, showing some of the more unusual features here. Detailed editing functions, complex routing, flexible sequencer, multi-effects rack, and expression assignments. These make Sektor a fantastic way to shape sounds and create unique instruments. The hundreds of presets and wavetables make great jumping off points, and from there, the sky's the limit. For more information, head to WA Production. Thanks for watching.